Talk Show. We got a power-packed show today. We have all these doctors in the house, an expert panel on so much relationships, you name it. Stay tuned. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey.
Hey, doctors.
Hey, good afternoon.
All right. Want to welcome you to the show. We're going to dive right in. I don't know if you can raise your hand if you've never experienced an unfruitful relationship. If you have, raise your hand. That's what I thought. All right. So I am Dr. Tamika Manning. I'm also joined by Dr. April, Dr. Nakia, Dr. Tanya, and Dr. Rael. Thank you guys for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about what does it mean to have an unfruitful or an unproductive relationship, Dr. April?
Okay, so let's start off with the definition. Unfruitful means not producing fruit. So unproductive, not providing satisfaction. So when it comes to unfruitful relationships, we're talking about, it could be abusive relationships, physically, mentally, emotionally. It could also be one-sided relationships that are not being reciprocal. When one person feels like they're putting their all and they're doing more than the other person. So Dr. Nakia, what do you think some examples for us, or maybe something that, you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think along with what you just said, if you're spending more days like worried, sad, not happy in the relationship than you are just enjoying the relationship, I feel like it's a red flag. So I think a lot of times people think about the potential of a relationship rather than what's actually happening in the moment. And so it kind of takes some reflection to think like if we're arguing all the time, or I feel like my needs aren't being met, then maybe this isn't the best relationship. But I also think sometimes people don't always know what they need, or they don't know how to ask for what they need. And so it's kind of difficult sometimes to parse out whether I should stick with this, whether this could work, or whether it can't. So I think it takes some serious reflection to know if this relationship is bad and it won't work for me.
All right. So Dr. Tanya, I looked up some information. I started doing research. And I saw that one of the characteristics of an unproductive relationship was that the person was an energy drainer. Can you speak to that?
Yes, an energy drainer is someone that just takes and takes and takes, and they're not contributing to the relationship. They're just absorbing. They're like a sponge. Anything that's being put out there by the other partner, they're just sucking it in, and they're not giving anything back. And, in relationships, it's a give and take in a relationship, but it's not a tit for tat. It's just a give and take. But you have some folks in a relationship that just take, and don't give anything back. And most of the time, they're not even aware that they're doing that somehow, because they feel like they're entitled to what they're getting.
Okay. So we're going to talk about that. I saw one of the characteristics was the person was toxic. I want to talk about some of the characteristics, but I want to talk about something that's major. We're going to talk about some of our personal experiences, but I want Dr. Rael. He is a relationship expert. He is a neuroscientist. He has all these titles. I want to hear from you. We talked about last show in part one of this show that a lot of times we're drawn to that same type of person. Speak to that.
Yeah. So you're speaking on why we keep attracting the same person over and over again, right? And I think part of it is what we all know, the repetitive compulsion. But also what's so important for us to know too as well is sometimes we're not actually attracting the same person over and over again, we're actually seeking the person because we're not totally detoxed from. So what we're doing is actually seeking out someone that is similar to the person, to our ex, right? So, and that's because we don't have that person's um, uh, personality, that person's the whole part, what we call the majority complex, right? Where we are looking out. So an example, when a drug dealer goes to jail, does the addict stop taking drugs? No, he goes out and looks for another drug dealer, right? And until we are actually detoxed, right? Then we're going to go out and we're going to seek someone similar to our ex, right? And that's something as well that we need to be more aware of too. I can go deeper, short.
Wow. Okay, so we talked about the characteristics. Can any of you guys counsel on a daily basis? I'm in the school system. I see a lot of toxic relationships. I see a lot of energy draining relationships with teenagers. And so let's speak to the experience of this all. It could either be a personal experience or it could be the experience of someone that you've actually counseled. Dr. April.
Well, I guess I'll go back to the counseling mode as far as the different clients that I see. I also see couples. I see a lot of males, in therapy for individual therapy. So I learn a lot from my male clients. And I think it's more or less, them being stressed. I would like to talk about that too, because that is unfruitful. Men talk about how they're stressed in their relationship. They may be putting forth a whole lot of effort, and then that partner is either she's not working or, she's not contributing to the household. And that's something that, is really bothering him because he has to now just, go out there and get it when he feels like, hey, if I had a partner initially when we got together, she had this drive. So now that we are together, it's like, I'm thinking that we're going to put something with something and we both get out there and get it, but she's not willing. So the term sorry comes up. And so it's funny because, you see that in a lot of women describing that in their relationships with men, but you don't really hear that as much with men describing that in their relationships with women.
Okay. Dr. Tanya, can you speak to that also?
Yes, I work with this all the time. And one thing that I've found to start coming up now in these experiences, I'll talk about this couple, is about an investment. They both understand that the relationship is not really being fulfilled, but your idea of fulfillment is different. We are socially conditioned to believe fulfillment is about love and different things. But this couple is about the investment. They won't let go. It's because I've been with you these years and we've done this and we've done that together. And it's no more about affection or any of that or respect. It's about, I'm not going to let go and then somebody else will receive the benefits of my fruits of what I've put into this relationship. Like I've developed you as a person. So that's just a different kind of dynamic. You're not fighting over love and infidelity. It's about, I'm not going to let you go for somebody to benefit what we've gained in this relationship. And so I find that to be a little odd.
So it's for selfish reasons. And we know a lot of relationships, there are a lot of selfish characteristics. When I was, again, researching, I saw that if you unambitious people getting involved with people who are mediocre, I want to hear more about that, because when you're in a relationship, are you supposed to set goals together? Can you set them separately? Can you still deal with old family members and friends? I see so many reasons why relationships are not productive. Dr. Nakia.
I think one factor that always comes up in my work experience, et cetera, is it's sometimes conscious and sometimes unconscious. But I think people, you have representations of you know, relationships from your primary one, your parents, people you see in your family, maybe your grandparents. And so sometimes I think people don't realize that they learn these scripts for how relationships should go, even if they're not necessarily healthy relationships. And then unconsciously, sometimes, you know, if we've observed that, that's what we think a relationship should be. And so then you get in a relationship with somebody, and maybe you're attracted to them because they're outgoing and you're kind of shy. And then somewhere in there, it just gets mixed up. Like if you haven't done the work to really feel whole and full in yourself and be introspective, then you pick someone based on this idea of what a relationship is. And then inevitably, I feel like there's some disappointment, or there's some, they just can't fulfill this thing you thought they could. And then people are dissatisfied. So I think if people were in touch with the fact that, like, this is what I saw growing up. So parts of it were good, parts of it weren't. So some of it I want, some of it I don't. And they go into a relationship with that kind of conscious awareness, I think there'd be more satisfaction. But I think people have these expectations, and then people can't fulfill it because they come in with their own baggage. And then all of a sudden we're unhappy.
Yeah.
All right, so personal experience. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Isabel. Good to see you.
Hello.
All right, hopefully Dr. Rael will come back in at some point. He'll be able to rejoin us. I'm not sure what happened with him, but we'll continue on. And as we continue, the premise behind the Chamber Talk Show is it's a mental health talk show, the holistic approach. And we're going to talk about some things that people can do when they feel like they have nowhere to go, they're in an unproductive relationship. But in the meantime, let's talk about the mental impact of relationships that are unproductive, that are unfruitful. And of course, I'm going to start with Dr. April.
What was the question?
Well, just, you know, you being a therapist, the mental impact of dealing with the fallout of a non-productive relationship.
Oh, wow. Stress. I mean, we get so many people coming to therapy for just stress with everything that's going on at home. You know, the arguments take place, the lack of communication, which is, I think, a huge, you know, setback when you can't communicate with your partner, or you feel like you are communicating, but you are not being heard, you know, where that person is just, you know, they're still doing what they want to do, no matter how you keep telling them. So I always talk to couples about, you know, it's always about the delivery. So being able to say things in a way to where you're not being offensive and you're not pushing someone's buttons. So in the sitting down in a calm manner and having a conversation. So I think that's always the key. But it's the time and the place to be able to do that, because that can cause a lot of mental stress. With men, they're always on guard. So I always tell women, when you're having a conversation with a man, never prep him first. Like, hey, at dinner tonight, I want to talk to you about something. He's going to worry about that all day. So you don't want to do that, you know, or, hey, can I ask you a question? No, don't do that either, because now he's starting to get anxiety. Just go into what you need to say. Like, oh, hey, babe, this is what, you know, was thinking about, and I want to blah, blah, blah. So just go into the conversation. No prep, because now he's worried about that, wondering what he's did, and his head is going all which way. So I think, you know, that's a good tip. So women can understand, you know, effective communication.
So what I heard you say was stress. And when you speak of stress, Dr. Isabel, she's a doctor, she's a nurse practitioner. What are the manifestations of stress?
Well, let me just say I specialize in women's health. So women, pregnant, non-pregnant, high-risk obstetrics, elderly women, they all come in different shapes and sizes. And one of the manifestations of stress is anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, diabetes, right? You're going to end up, so it gets even much deeper, okay? We start affecting our cells, and we get deep down into the DNA, and we start affecting our telomeres. And I can get into real deep stuff here, but, you know, it's deep. And when you don't have this sense of self-worth, so Dr. Nakia Hamlet talked about, and Dr. Tanya Gilbert talked about, the energy drainer, and a woman who does not have the sense of self-worth, she's going to get sick at the end of the day. So we got to really work on that. And I do that every time I see my clients. I talk about how's home. How is your partner? Are you feeling supported? And if that's good, then I understand that that part of the household is steady. So now we can really talk about herself.
Mhm.
That's what I have to say in a quick tidbit.
Okay, so we're moving as we move to a close. Let's deal with what people should be doing when they are in these types of relationships. For me, I'll start with me. I say get busy, be productive yourself, focus on yourself, and let everything else fall into place. For you guys that know me, I work out, I train. So I do all these things. I think when people get caught into these types of situations, they get stuck. So for me, I say get active, stay busy, do things that are productive that will further you in your education, whatever it may be, whatever you're seeking. So let's go around. You guys, let's give some advice before we close and give affirmations and talk about the upcoming shows. Dr. April, I'll let you start.
Okay. Well, I think, as you said, being productive within yourself, getting busy. Also, practicing doing things alone. I think that's a huge one. Sometimes you become codependent in relationships. And just because you're married and you have a partner doesn't mean you have to spend every waking day and hour with that person. You still need to have that sense of self. So you want to go out, go to the gym, walk on the trail, go out to movies, go out to restaurants, go out and get your hair and nails done, things that you can do alone to help yourself feel good. Have a self-care day to where it's just you spending time with you. So you can sit and self-reflect, do that journaling and practicing gratitudes, a lot of different things like that will really help you, find yourself and increase the self-love aspect as well.
Got it. Okay. Dr. Nakia.
Yeah, I agree with what Dr. April just said for sure. Finding that time for yourself. And I think one thing is, just the journey to self esteem, self worth, because I think ultimately, to Dr. Tanya's point, I think sometimes people are afraid to let a relationship go, even if it's a bad one, because they're like, what am I going to do? Am I going to survive? Will I make it without this person? So I feel like whatever it takes to develop that sense of like, I will be okay. Like, I can do this. Like, and imagining yourself as someone who's confident and can survive past a relationship. And that if it doesn't work out, you actually will be okay. And I think sometimes that takes some work and some introspection to just feel that deep sense of like, I'm going to be all right no matter what happens.
All righty. I like that. Dr. Tanya.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of that as well and say one of the first steps you have to do is understand the relationship you're in. What are your contributions to the relationship playing out in the ways that it is, and not get caught up in the blame game, whose fault it is, because no matter whose fault it may be, we all have a responsibility to make the changes and the adjustments that are needed. So understand, is this a relationship that you want, or are you dealing with a relationship that's been designed by you, not by you, but for you, by friends, society, and you afraid of the stigma of being alone or of failing a relationship that's not conducive to what you need in a relationship. So being able to evaluate the relationship and understand what your absolutes are, what your absolute must-haves are, what you absolutely will not accept, and be willing to walk that and own that, so you can be in a relationship that's authentic to who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Isabel.
Well, ladies, you guys talked about such amazing aspects of care, and I only wish I had you with me when different patients come in, because they're all made in different ways. So one of the quick things that I tell my patients that they can leave with is learning how to separate fact from fiction. And is this true, or is it your truth, or is it your fiction? Right? Because they come in upset that they can't handle their boyfriends, or they feel sad, or they're feeling neglected. So I ask them, is this true? And you don't have to answer me that question. You can write about it. So to what Dr. Given said, journaling is so important, it's so reflective, and those are two tools that I give my clients.
I love it. I love it. I think it's awesome. So as we move to a close, You know, we often forget about college students who are suffering. This month is Suicide Prevention or Awareness Month. And a friend of mine has a granddaughter who is literally on campus. And on campus, she is pushing the mental health awareness agenda. In fact, she has designed some T-shirts, and they are T-shirts that say, "Just Ask." And her name is Kanaya Arnold. And I'm super proud that she is in college. Her T-shirts are absolutely amazing. In fact, I have a T-shirt on right now. And with the T-shirt that I have on, literally it defines things like anxiety and depression. And it says depression is a noun, a flaw in chemistry, not character, and it's temporary. And I think that's so noble of her to be so young and to take it up on herself to actually go out on the college campus and take on this mission. And again, I'm wearing it. It says "Just Ask." And so with us being a mental health talk show, I thought it was amazing as well. I think it's so awesome that Kanaya has taken on that mission. Of course, her mom is her grandmother is a licensed therapist also, and she's been a guest on the show. So just wanted to highlight that, you know, sometimes we forget about the college students. I know Dr. April works with college students regularly, so we need to remember that. And before we go to the affirmation, I am going to talk about coming up next month. We have some very special guests. We have Tashara Parker of WFAA coming on to talk about the mental impact of wearing your natural hair. And we know that that can be something for us in the workplace, going out to dinner, and so on and so forth. And then we also have Felicia Cox, who has become an IFBB pro. She's a figure competitor, and she has dealt with some issues emotionally and mentally, just like the rest of us. And she's going to be on next month as well. And of course, we'll promote the show. But mental health is major. Thank you, ladies, for taking time this evening to come on and talk about unfruitful and unproductive relationships. I think we can all benefit. I think we've all been a part of this. So I really appreciate you taking time. Dr. April is going to take us out with a positive affirmation today. Take it away, Dr. April.
Okay, so the affirmation for today is, I can draw healthy boundaries when I need to and effectively communicate with my partner.
I can draw effective boundaries.
I can draw healthy boundaries when I need to and effectively communicate with my partner.
I absolutely love it. Again, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. I think this has been an amazing show. We'll be back next month again with those ladies to talk more about mental health. Of course, go out to the Chamber Talk Show. You can see some of our shows. I don't have all of them loaded, but some of our shows are there, and you can watch snippets of our shows as we continue to make an impact. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening.
Bye.